Fortunately, something that I've realized in business is that you do not get a lot of responses through email, and that sometimes can be really frustrating for me. Especially since I don't love to talk on the phone too much. But I think something I've definitely learned is it's important to have a phone call.
Welcome to Future Titans, where we spotlight remarkable middle and high school entrepreneurs building real businesses that solve real problems. Every founder we speak to has received a $1,000 Formidable Fellowship grant. It's not equity, it's not debt, just a bit of inspiration capital to say keep doing what you're doing. If you're a student entrepreneur, we'd love to support you too. Just visit formidablefellowship.org to apply for a grant. It takes less than 5 minutes. And if you believe in empowering young builders, consider supporting our mission. All contributions are tax deductible. Now on to the conversation. All right. Hey, everybody. We have an awesome entrepreneur with us today. I'm going to let him introduce himself, but, probably one of the few chefs I think we have in our initial grantee portfolio. So let me turn it over to Ayaan. Ayaan, if you wouldn't mind, maybe just introduce yourself, your name, where you go to school, what grade you're in to start.
Yeah, sure. Hi, my name's Ayaan Jain. I'm a freshman in Huntington Central High School, and I'm the founder of Teens to Table.
Okay. Fun fact, I also went to Hunterdon Central High School, and Ayaan and I did not know each other, but he applied. He was very clearly talented, and you'll hear what an amazing business he's built. So Ayaan, maybe walk folks through what your business is, the name, what it does, and just to give them a sense for how successful it is, maybe how much revenue you did last year.
Yeah, sure. So my business is called Teens to Table, and that's with the number 2. The whole purpose of Teens to Table is selling baked goods and empowering others to start a business, and especially teens. I'm really passionate about cooking, like you said, and I'm really passionate about baking as well. And so I really wanted to turn that into something special. And Teens to Table pretty much sells local homemade baked goods through a cottage license, which I attained over last summer. And now it's getting bigger and bigger. And so I started supplying with schools, and that's really exciting. That's been selling a lot of cookies there. And so hopefully we are supposed to get around 600 cookies per week. To date, I've made around $4,000 in revenue, and hopefully that's going to increase soon. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, our job is to make that increase. So fantastic work. So, I know from our first conversation, you really enjoy baking. A lot of people enjoy baking. Not all of them turn it into a business. So I'd love to just go back to what made you initially say hey, I think I want to turn this into a business.
Yeah, sure. So like I said, I'm a bit passionate about baking, but I've also always been passionate about business. I've been surrounded by business all my life. Both of my parents have been entrepreneurs, I believe. They started a business when they were young as well, and my brother is a founder of a nonprofit for providing education and STEM access to underprivileged kids. And so I think really where my spark of business came up is from all 3 of them. My family has been really supportive, and they always encouraged me to start a business. And to be honest, when I was making cookies and baking them and they were turning out really good, I was like, I always really want to make money off this someday. And so I think those 2 things really combined, and that's how I started Teens to Table.
Okay, cool. Makes sense. And is this your first entrepreneurial venture, or did you ever try anything else, mowing lawns or selling, candy out of your locker or anything else?
Really, this is the first one. In around 2nd grade, I used to sell pen launchers with the TD Bank pens.
Okay.
I didn't really used to charge anyone. I just give it to my friends. I used to make them out of rubber bands. But this is pretty much the first real thing.
One. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So you decide you want to sell cookies, and so there's a lot of different avenues you can go. You can sell them to consumers and go direct, right? Like Mrs. Field style, or you can sell them to businesses. And it seems like you've settled on the idea of selling them to businesses. What made you decide that?
So initially I tried to sell by consumers in the beginning of my business and in the development. But I found that a lot of people really have their brand already, and they aren't really open to trying these things, and going person by person or going by people is not as effective in my opinion. Going for businesses and saying, hey, I have 20 cookies, I'll give it to you per week. for me, it's a lot easier. And to be honest, I think it's more effective in the terms of business because either they already buy it, so I get the money up front, and then they sell however many cookies of mine they sell per week. Um, and also, it's easier for me to bake all the cookies at once. The problem is with some of the cookies, they only last around 3 to 4 days. So if I don't sell them, then they get ruined and spoiled. And one, that's a loss of money for me. And two, that's wasting food, which I really don't like to see as well. And so, siding towards the business aspect as well, I feel like a lot of businesses would go for bulk orders. And so, going person to person is really one or two cookies, while businesses, on the other hand, could go for 20, 30. And now, schools that I'm supplying to is going over for 400 a week. So, there's a more big and bulk amount of the cookies in that aspect.
Okay, that's amazing. Yeah, there's a lot of insight there. I think, what Ion hit on is like consumers are hard. They have existing preferences. They can also be fickle, right? They might like it today and then they'll never buy it again. Versus with a business, you get quantity, you get repeatability, and you're solving a need, right? Like it's going to help them make money, so they're also motivated. So it's a really good insight. And so let's walk through how you got that first business and what type of businesses are these? Are these restaurants? Are these convenience stores? Like what's the typical profile?
Sure. So, these are mainly restaurants. A lot of them are farmers markets during the summer, during Christmas, and popular times where people would walk up and go to stands and vendors. And so, a lot of these in the school year for me are restaurants. That way I can give them the cookies and then go around with the rest of my day. During the summer, during winter break, I would go to local farmers markets. Recently, I sold at Reddington Brewery. Braun, he's the CEO of it, and he has been a really great guy for me. He has been of tremendous help. He actually allowed me to sell there first, and that was my first sales for a pizza table. And I served cookies, brownies, and I believe biscuits that time. And I think Braun gave me a lot of insights on what to do and how to set up my stall. At that time of my business, I had a small tent with a couple cardboard write-outs on what I was selling. And Braun told me ABC testing and the different locations you want to do. So Reddington Brewery is something that I've been consistently going to, and they've been a tremendous, tremendous help for me. A couple others was Stangl Market. They've been a lot of help as well. They've consistently provided me a space to sell, and it's been a really fun time selling there. And to be honest, now I'm just looking for more and more businesses to just reach out and say, hey, I'm selling cookies. Would it be possible if I could give you 20, especially now during the school year?
Got it. And so I just to make sure I understand the business, when you go into Reddington Brewery, it sounds like Braun's been um, an amazing resource. Are you setting up a stand and then you're sort of manning that and selling it? Or is it like you give them the cookies and then they, I don't know, have it at the cashier or they add it to their menu and, they'll kind of offer it as a dessert or something? How does that work?
So usually that's both. So usually I would try to give it to them during the week and say, you put it on your menu and you can charge it for whatever you want. Then some days, Friday, Saturday, Sundays, usually when it works best for me, I would go put up a tent and put up a stall and really interact with customers. I like to get a lot of feedback on my cookies and my baked goods. I think that really helps me for the room for improvement, and it really just gets me hand on with the customers. So I think that's a part of the business I've really enjoyed as well, interacting with a lot of the customers and seeing their feedback, what their story has been. I've met a lot of cool people and shared some really cool experiences with them as well.
Okay, that's cool. And what was the feedback Braun gave you on sort of the tent, your display setup? Maybe what'd you start with and then what did you change it to maybe based on his insights?
Yeah, sure. So initially, like I said before, I had a small tent. It was during the summer and it was really hot, so like it was almost like picture a tiny umbrella, just like enlarged. And I would have just a small poster board with cardboard saying "Teams to Table" and what I was selling. And so as I kept selling and continuing to sell, Braun would give me the feedback on maybe you want to make yourself more noticeable, especially outside. So, as I continue now, I have a banner, which is professionally done, which shows what my food is. So instead of having people to squint at the side, they can directly see what the business is called and what I'm clearly selling. And so I think that has been a major help. If people are interested, they'd come over. And if they want to see what is this 14-year-old doing here, they would also come over. And another thing Braun has been really helpful on is the locations. So my first sell was actually on Father's Day, and I didn't get that many sales as I thought I would. Father's Day at Reddington Brewery it's really busy. There's like a lot of people there, and I made a lot of supply. But truly, I didn't really get close to selling out as I'd imagined. And that day, Braun came to me and he said, maybe you want to try a different location instead. And the next time I came there, I got sold out. And there wasn't nearly as many people, but I almost made the same amount of money. And to me, that was a really big insight on business that some days are good for one and some days are bad. So it's pretty inconsistent in that terms, but it's also that location matters and where you're being seen is really important.
Okay. Yeah, two huge insights in like location matters, and then the packaging matters in terms of your banner being clear on who you are, what you sell, right? Because most people are busy and they're not going to take time to like go and explore what you're doing. They're just going to look at it and be like, I don't get it. And then they're just going to move on with life. So, okay, that's fantastic. All right. And so, what's the pitch to businesses, right? I think and the reason I ask is I think a lot of entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs especially, find this idea of pitching somebody very daunting, right? They're just like, oh my God, like what if they say no? Like they're not going to like the product. They're going to tell me to get out of their place. Like, you know, maybe just walk us through what the pitch is and how that's evolved maybe as you've gotten feedback.
Yeah, for sure. So definitely I can relate with all those teens who say, I'm scared if they say no. Initially, I was definitely in my comfort zone and I was stuck in my shell. But I think it's really important as I've learned to just break out of it and and just email them, send them an email, send them a call. If they say no, they say no. It really can't hurt you in that terms, and getting your name out is also really important. So practically my business pitch, I've targeted restaurants and businesses who are in some realm of desserts or could, I believe, benefit from that. So in the summer, I contacted a lot of ice cream places that were open for cookie sandwiches or because I know cookies pair well with ice creams. So I thought that would be something that would pair well. So when I pitched it to them and when I called them on the phone, I asked one, do they have time to meet virtually or in person? I want to talk a little bit more about what I do and I want you to know me and know what you're getting into. And two, I wanted to talk to them about my products, what I was selling, and I wanted to give them the information on how, I guess, whatever they're selling, I could do a little bit better by taste, by cost, and a lot of those things. So those two were, I think, my main pitches. Definitely me being 14 years old helped in some scenarios. I think that levered some people for sure. But I think it's really important to just get your business's name out there. And during the pitches, I think it's important to say what you want to do and possibly get on a 15-minute call with them. I think that's been tremendously helpful. I've talked to a lot of people over the past year and so. And so I think just having a chat with people on what your business is and how you could help them is really important.
Got it. Cool. Really, really smart. And so if we could go one level below, right? So you mentioned kind of businesses that might be open to, having baked goods. And then you said, hey, ice cream pairs well with cookies. That's a good fit. So how do you find these businesses? Are you going on Google and saying, ice cream stores in Flemington, New Jersey, and then you're just, kind of finding their website and their email or cold calling them? Like, for somebody who wanted to do this, like give them the playbook a little bit.
Yeah, so definitely I think it's a lot of just where have you been in Flemington? And I think that's something that has been playing a role in my business for sure. I've been to several of these places that I'm now supplying at, and they know me, they've seen me as a regular customer. And so I tended to target those at first in the development of my business. But as I grew, I really just did what you said. I searched up on Google places near Flemington, such as ice cream stores or places, dessert places, cake places. And unfortunately, something that I've realized in business is that you do not get a lot of responses through email, and that sometimes can be really frustrating for me, especially since I don't love to talk on the phone too much. But I think something I've definitely learned is it's important to have a phone call. So I give them a couple days with the email, 4 or 5 days, and then I prefer to call them and say, "Hey, I reached out through email. I didn't hear a response. So I'm just following up if seeing if something you guys are interested in." And that has worked out pretty well. But I'm definitely looking for suggestions otherwise.
Okay. Okay. I want to just highlight what you said because I think it's like there's a couple things you've said. One is um, sometimes young entrepreneurs think that their age is a weakness and it's actually a superpower. Um, like uh, people who run businesses, older people who run businesses, like when they see a young entrepreneur, especially, like it reminds them of them. And like they're rooting for you. And so they're not rooting against you. And so young entrepreneurs have like a huge weapon that I don't think they exploit nearly enough. So good on you for doing that. I think that's really, really good. And then the second thing you said, which is really important, which is sometimes you got to pick up the phone, right? Uh, Business people live in their email, and the last thing they want to do is respond to another email. And to cut through the noise, picking up the phone is really, really powerful. So that's also really fantastic that you do that. Um, I'm curious if you could remember the first time you did a cold call where you just picked up the phone and called somebody. Like, do you remember how you were feeling that first time?
I think it was an ice cream shop called Polar Cub.
Nice.
It's
I used to go there all the time. That's on.
yeah, I love it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
great.
that's a place where me and my family always love to go, and we're so disappointed when it closes in the winter. So yeah, I think that was my first call that I ever made. They're a small business, so I thought it would be a good place to start out and see what their suggestion was. They know me as a regular customer, and they're super nice people, especially when you get up to the counter and order something. They're really, really nice. So I think the first time I called Polar Cub, and I was super nervous. Like, to be honest, I was on a docs and I wrote down exactly what I wanted to say. I was just like, I don't want to speak freely. I'm so nervous. And so I just read directly on a doc, and to be honest, I probably sounded really, really robotic to them. Um, but that didn't go as planned. The call for sure. I definitely said ums and uhs, and I was really panicking and freaking out there. But and eventually they didn't follow up with the idea, and it kind of went a little south. But that was okay. I really learned a lot. But yeah, that first cold call it's a really important memory for me. I think I'm never gonna forget it. But I was really, really nervous.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, I don't think anybody is not nervous that first cold call. And now if let's say you had to do a cold call now, how does it feel now?
I'm ready. Like I'm really confident when it comes to cold calls now. To be honest, I've done so many where I already know what I'm gonna say in my head, and depending on where I call, I'm ready and I'm really excited to see what they say. To me, every call is another opportunity, and it's something where it's every call is another growth for your business, and it's another brilliant opportunity that you have to expand. So every call now, I just say who I am. I say what my business does, and I want their feedback if they say no, and I'm looking to get into more details if they're positive with it. So I
Okay.
think, yeah.
That's great. If we could just bottle up what Ayaan said and inject it into every entrepreneur's veins, like that is amazing, right? Like every call is an opportunity to learn is like a really fantastic framing. Um, I'm curious now, Ayaan, like if you were to make 100 calls, like do you have a sense for how many deals you'd close?
I would say 0 to 1
Okay.
to be honest, for 100. Especially with food, I've learned is it's really, really hard
Okay.
to figure out people who want to do it. And something I've actually learned from my dad is what's in it for me. That's something where I don't really see practical usage for a lot of businesses out there, especially who sell cookies. Initially, what's in it for me? But now I've tried to lower my costs and expand the taste, and even add health and nutrition into the cookies and baked goods that I prepare. So I think that's the aspect of what's in it for me for the businesses. And I think, yeah, that's something that I've definitely tried to learn and keep growing as my business.
Okay. Yeah. Really, really important. Yeah. I mean, I think like unfortunately, the reality is like the customer doesn't care about you. They care about themselves, right? And that's what's in it for me really kind of nicely gets at. So I think it's great that you've picked up on that. So if cold calling is a pretty rough channel in terms of conversion, what's been better for you? What other ways are you finding to get customers that's most effective?
Well, I think one is when you get that 0 to 1, when you get that one business, I think from there, taking your business and putting your name out is really important. So my first sale, like I said, was in Reddington Brewery. I tried to print business cards, even if it was just a piece of paper, and get my business, my name out there, my website, teenstotable.com. I thought it was really important to just have people know. So either virtually they can order, they can email me saying, hey, I'm catering for a party. So I think cold calling is still an option that I use, and it's, to be honest, it's a pretty popular option for me because it's hard to get in contact with a lot of these restaurant owners and business owners. But I think once I have that opportunity to sell at a restaurant or a business, I think it's taking that opportunity and making something out of it by expanding my name and by telling what I do.
I want to dig a little bit into where you got this sort of entrepreneurial drive. It sounds like you clearly grew up in an entrepreneurial family. Um, were there other kind of inspirations, either a class at school, you're a really rabid fan of Shark Tank, people on YouTube that you watch that you think highly of, like any other kind of sources of inspiration on the entrepreneurship side?
Yeah, definitely. I think Shark Tank is a big one for sure. The Indian Shark Tank and the American Shark Tank, I love watching them. To be honest, I'm not in it for the sharks. I'm really more in it for the entrepreneurs. I've really looked up to them and see how they pitch their ideas and how they know every single fact about their business so fluently and so keenly. So, Shark Tank is definitely, in watching TV shows such as Shark Tank and listening to podcasts has been something that I just looked up to, and I said that's who I want to become one day. For those entrepreneurs, and I think those televisions plus my family and friends have been the two main sources.
Got it. And so who are those entrepreneurs that you look at and you're like, oh, I wanna, that's like I'd aspire to sort of achieve what that person has done.
Yep. So definitely a lot of chefs. I'm Indian, so I love Indian food and I love watching Indian companies and Indian restaurants grow. So Sanjeev Kapoor is one of them. He's been a big idol of mine. I love watching him cook, and I love seeing how he takes his cooking skills and implement them into business by creating several restaurants. Another one is Your Food Lab. It's a company, or it's a YouTube videos where he just creates on cooking, and he sells all these pans and pots that he uses in there. Super cool. I wish I could have everything. He has a wok made for Asian food, and he has a kadai, which is like a special pan for Indian cooking. And so something that I've realized is he takes a lot of joy in cooking. I can see it from his videos, and he implements that into his restaurants or his pans and pots. And that's two people who I really looked up to, those two chefs. And then generally as well, a lot of Gordon Ramsay, Bobby Flay, these two, they've been pretty influential. They're popular on YouTube, they're popular on social media, and I've just watched them as I grew up. So
Okay. Amazing. That's great. Let's say we could get you an audience with Sanjeev Kapoor and you had an opportunity to ask him a question or two to help grow your business. Like where do you think he could help you?
I would say one advice that you would give me is, how do you overcome all the struggles and problems you face as a business? And two, for the fun side, is how did you implement one restaurant into an entire empire? So I think those two questions would be really important. One, I faced a lot of struggles throughout my business, and I think that's something where I can really learn on how he takes that and incorporates it to something else, and incorporates it into a positive energy. I've tried to do that a lot, but sometimes it gets frustrating for sure. And he's created one restaurant to a whole empire. A lot of people in India know his name, and even in America now. So how did he do that, and what's the best way for me to get that growth as well?
Okay, cool. I love that you're thinking so big. And then you mentioned your food labs. Like, if we could get them in the room with you, like, where could their expertise be helpful?
For them, I think on the other side of the entrepreneurial venture, more cooking. He does a lot of baking on his channel as well, and something that I've been struggling with is complying with the smart snack for schools. And this has like nutrition guidelines such as the amount of fat in your cookie, the amount of sugar, and he seems to do it so well. He posts vegan recipes, less sugar recipes, and I want to ask him, how does he do that, and how long does it take for him to develop these recipes? Because I've been trying for like months and months, and it's getting better and better for sure. But how does he do it with such ease, it seems like, and what's the way to counter these guidelines?
Okay. All right. So compliance with these guidelines. Okay, cool. Actually, that brings me to something you said initially. I forget what the term was, like cottage license or something. What is that, and why do you need it?
Yeah, so a cottage license is a license that I got from New Jersey, and it's a license that allows you to cook and bake homemade baked goods in your own private kitchen, so at home. And so this allows you to take those baked goods that you make and sell them at retailing stores, like I've done with my business. Usually you need something called a commercial kitchen, where it's like a full-on master chef kitchen where it has all the ingredients, it has the proper food sanity. So the cottage license has really helped me cook from home. And for the cottage license, I needed to pass a test. I needed to get a food manager certification and a microbiological analysis of my well. And so that's something that took a really long time to do and process. So that took around 3 to 4 months for me to attain that. And actually, just waiting on the application is what took longest after I sent it in. But definitely the cottage license is something that is really beneficial to me because it allows me to not like waste money and go to commercial kitchens rather than cooking at here.
Got it. Okay, very smart. And so, how did you even know you needed that? Were you talking to customers and they were like, "Listen, I like your product, but I need you to have a cottage license," or what made you even aware of the fact that you needed that?
Yeah, so actually, in the development of my business, like when I was starting out, the early couple weeks or days, I just cold called a farmer's market in Hopewell. I believe it's called the Hopewell Farmers Market. And I asked them, I'm really passionate about cooking. Can I sell these baked goods that I make? And they said, do you have a cottage permit? And I was like, sorry? I didn't really know what that meant at first. And this person, I believe her name was Paige. I, I think it was Paige Blanc. She was extremely helpful. She walked me through the process, got me on the site, and I just learned what it was. So for the next few days, I definitely researched everything about the cottage license and what it was. And so, especially Paige helped me a lot with that as well. She told me what exactly I needed to do based on my location and based on the water I have and the courses I can take. And so from that, I actually went back to her and said, now have my cottage license. Can I sell? And that's been something that's been going on as well.
Okay, that's very very cool. One thing I'm always just um, amazed by when we talk to young entrepreneurs is how kind people are. Like Paige, Braun, like there's a lot, and I hear it from lots of other young entrepreneurs. Like there's a lot of like bad news out there, but like people are actually very good,
Yeah.
and it's awesome to hear that. So Paige sounds amazing, and like you got a lot of help there, and then you went through this process, and so. Can a 14-year-old get a cottage license, or did you have to apply under, as a family or under your parents? Like, how did that work?
Yeah, no, 14-year-old can definitely apply. There's no age restriction or anything. You just have to make sure you study enough to pass the test and you really envision what your business wants to sell. Because during the application, you need to list specific things that you want to sell. And so what I did is I wasn't actually sure what I wanted to sell. So I listed around 300 things of just random baked goods. So it must have been a pain for the person who was reviewing my application for sure. But that's something that you just have to have a clear vision on what you want to do, or you can put 200, but I definitely wouldn't suggest. I think that made the application process a little longer. So just have a clear vision on what you want to do and make sure you study hard enough to pass the test, and I think you're good to go from there.
Right.
Yeah.
Do they come and interview you or come inspect your home or anything, or it's all kind of like all virtual kind of?
It's all online. The test proctor is online, so you just have to have like a video of your test sites to make sure there's no like anything going on. And I think that's it. Initially, I thought there would be like a health inspector come to watch our kitchen and see if it's clean or not, but it's pretty much just honor based in some scenarios where make sure you wear gloves when you cook and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And then the other part is all virtually with the test and the course.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. It's really, I mean, this is almost like a little barrier to entry that you have that other people, because a lot of people might not go through the hassle of doing this. And, I guess there's some amount of expense, I imagine, as well. Like you probably need to pay fees and stuff. So that's really good that you've done that. And so now when you go to any business, you can say you have your cottage license and like that's sort of like a stamp of approval, I guess, that like you're legit. Okay. Very, very good. And I think before we started recording, you said you had some big news today. Um, Maybe what is that? What is that? Let's get into what that big news is.
Yeah, so I just got an email from Timothy Hendrickson from Pomptonian, who is my school 100 and Central's school supplier for food and stuff like that. And he said that they're willing to buy 200 cookies from me for this week.
Amazing.
And that's really my first big sale. 200 cookies is something that I've been working towards a lot, and I've been in contact with him and another school supplier since a while back now. And it's really taken a long time to develop the recipes, but he finally stamped the approval and said, let's start it. And so that's really exciting. So I'm going to give him 200 cookies this Monday during school. So I'm really excited about that.
Oh, that's great. Well, congratulations.
Yeah,
That's
thank
great.
you.
I guess you have a busy couple of days coming up.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, okay, that's amazing. So now the business is going from like what I guess people would call B2B, business to almost B to B to B. Like you're selling to wholesalers who then sell it to the businesses, or in this case, a school. Okay, so now you're gonna if that works and they have sell through, you can do like real volumes with them. And I guess are they a supplier to other schools as well?
Yeah, they are. Actually, that's something that really was exciting me is he mentioned that we could sell not only at my school, 100 and Central, but all the other school serving districts that they do as well. So hopefully 200 is a base, and in the next month and hopefully weeks, actually, we're going to go to more districts and more cookies.
Oh, nice. All right. So if you're listening to this and you're at 100 and Central, make sure to go buy one of Ion's cookies and support his business. Yeah, that's great. That is really awesome. So you like really, you're kind of hitting the big time here, which is great. I'm very excited for you. So, you've done cold calling, you got a cottage license, you're expanding into wholesale as well as kind of selling into retail. Um, but you mentioned some hard times, right? And I think like one of the things that somebody watching this might feel is like, oh, Ion's super poised. He like has it all figured out. I'm not, I can't do what he did. Right. And so just to make that a little less daunting, like maybe walk us through some of those challenging periods, right? Where maybe you were kind of like more feeling a bit of self doubt, where you're just kind of like, I'm not sure I should be doing this. Like, any stories like that?
Yeah, 100%. There's so many. Like just starting from the cottage license, like it's supposed to take on their website 2 months. It took like 4 to 5 months, and I actually emailed our local congresswoman for New Jersey to see what's going on. Like I want to start my business, and so that moment I really couldn't do anything with my business. I was reaching out and saying I'm supposed to get my cottage license, and they were like, "Come back to me when you get it." And so that 4 months was like really really frustrating for me. I was like, I can't do anything. My business is just on hold. And so that was something where I just had to tone it out and maybe like just distract myself for a little bit, perfect the recipe, and just enjoy baking for a little bit and coming back. And aside from the cottage license, now starting with schools, I was first in contact with Machios, who are a local school supplier for my former middle school and elementary school, Copper Hill and JP Case Middle School. And so they have been like all my life, they've been supplying food. And for me, I just learned when I contacted them, I actually cold called them again. Can I supply to you? I learned about the Smart Snack Nutrition, like I mentioned earlier. And I had no clue what it was. I looked at their website and I was like, are you serious? Like, there's like less than 5 grams of fat in one cookie. I had no clue how to do this. I've always experimented with cookies with butter and even margarine or oil. I couldn't do it. Like I took several attempts. I probably took over 10 in just 2 or 3 days to figure out the cookie, and it never came out as good as I wanted it. And I was always comparing it to my other cookies with massive amounts of butter, to be honest. Um, but that's something that was really, really frustrating for me, especially like as many times as I tried it, I couldn't get it right. To be honest, now I'm still trying to perfect the recipe. It's getting better, but it's still not 100% there. And so I've talked to a lot of people. My Aunt Tanya, she is a baker, and so I hopped on a call with her and said, how could I reduce the fat while managing it to taste good? And she recommended a blend of oils and stuff like that. But still, that was a really, really hard time for me because it was just really frustrating when every cookie I came out wasn't as good as the ones I've tasted before. And so mainly the cottage permit and this has been really frustrating for me. But I think the one way to mask failure and embrace it is embrace it for me. And it's to take failure and say, I've done this now and I failed. How can I make it better? And I think that's a philosophy that I've tried to implement throughout the days of my business.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, that plus the cold calling that you've done. I mean, I think you kind of face a lot of potential rejection and you've kind of fought through that and you problem solved on this cottage thing and some of these other sort of some of these other aspects, which is fantastic. Um, you kind of gave some advice. You've talked about the people that you admire. I'm curious with the Formidable Fellowship grant, you got $1,000. Have you already deployed that somewhere, or where are you planning to invest that in the business?
Yes, so I've deployed some of it. For Pomptonian, I required a general liability insurance to make sure my cookies are like compliant and they're insured and everything like that. So I used a program called Flip, actually from another person I've been talking to in a commercial kitchen. His name's John Stan. He's been extremely helpful as well. He's been giving me a lot of advice on what I need to actually have like make sure I'm like all good in the legal aspects of it. And it's something I've never really thought about. Like my cookies have to be compliant, but they also have to be like safe for people to eat, and you have to make sure on what to do when if you screw up or something like that. So one, the general liability insurance, and I'm falling back on John. He allowed me to create a HACCP plan, which is like and a recall plan. So they're both like proactive measures on what happens if there's hair in your cookie or there's contaminations and what you have to do. So I've used my money specifically on the general liability, which to be honest is really, really expensive, way more than I thought. It's topping like 650. So really with 350 left, I'm hoping to buy that on the first start of ingredients now.
Okay, got it. Wow. All right. Yeah, I underestimated how much like compliance and other stuff, like legal and whatnot, that you have to deal with, which is,
Yeah.
and you're like teaching yourself all of this, which is really, really fantastic. So I'm glad we could use, you didn't have to pay 650 and we could help with that. That's great. Um, where do you like, you're in ninth grade. What other activities do you do besides, running this really amazing business?
Yeah, so I'm really passionate about robotics. So I'm currently in my robotics team, the Daleks 3637. We are the FRC team for our 100 Central High School. And so we meet a lot. We meet Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, pretty much 12 hours a week. And so it's been really fun for me. I am on the business side of it. But I've been really enjoying being surrounded by engineers and like developing an actual robot. Other than the school activity there, I'm really, really passionate about cricket. It's something that I've been surrounded my whole life around. My dad introduced it to me, and me and my brother play in our backyard. We have wickets, which are like small sticks where the ball's supposed to hit, and me and him just love playing it. We try to play every day, whether it's snowing, whether it's raining, or whether it's like 90 degrees outside. So it's something we really, really love to do. And on match days, which are World Cup matches, we wake up at 2, 3 in the morning because it's held in Australia. We come down to the smell of snacks, and we really, really enjoy our time.
Okay, that's great. That's great. And so how much time are you spending on the business, right? You got this big order of cookies that you got to deliver Monday, and then you've got repeating customers that you got to deliver, presumably maybe every week or multiple times a week. Like how intensive is the business effort right now?
So the business effort is pretty intensive right now, for sure. I'm probably spending around 20 hours a week on it. It's definitely going to get more for sure, especially with the orders coming up. 200 cookies is not a joke for me anymore. I also don't have a convection oven or a commercial oven, so it's going to take multiple batches and attempts to create it. I also want to keep consistency the same, so that's going to take a lot of my time, especially something I never really thought about was shopping. Um, Shopping at Costco, Restaurant Depot, both like wholesales, which are you can buy bulk for fairly cheap, takes up a lot of my time, and it's something that I never realized would take that long, but it's something that definitely takes a while, so I think it's going to start getting more and more intensive as well.
Okay, yeah, 20 hours with the full school schedule and robotics and other activities is a lot. How do you deal, kind of time management? Like what's your tricks there? Any tips or tricks there?
I think just resort a slot of time that you want to work for your business. I have a lot of schoolwork in high school now. I'm taking harder classes, and it's definitely more of a challenge. And so the business is really fun for me. And I think business is all about passion. So if you really have fun with your business, it's a break almost to me sometimes. Sometimes it can be frustrating for sure, but most of the times business is a break and it's really fun for me. So after I'm really tired of my school day or my schoolwork, I would sit down for an hour and work on my business, listen to music while I'm doing it, and just figure out what the plan is. So I would resort an amount of time every day to work on your business.
Okay. When you think about your business, or maybe if we were to ask, like, your parents, let's say, or somebody who knows you really well, from when you started the business to today, like what changes would you say they have observed in you? What would they say?
I think it's really mentality changes they've seen in me. Like I said, at first I've been really like scared of talking to people. I was in my shell. I didn't want to say yes to every opportunity, though it may pan out to something. I thought that's a stupid idea or that's not going to make any sense for my business, so I would just say no straight off the bat. But now, like I said, I see every opportunity as growth. Whether I don't think it's going to work now or whether I do think it's something that doesn't really make sense for my business right now, I would still try and go for it because you don't really know where it can lead. An example for that for my business was actually Machio's, the school supplier I contacted. I was on the way home from a chess club that I was teaching for my school, and I was sitting in the car with my dad. He suggested I go after my local school supplier. I was like, there's no way that's going to happen. They're way too big for me. They serve so many kids. That's just not going to happen. And he said, just trust me. And I did. I called them that day and I was really scared. And to be honest, I had a closed mind, but it's something that has opened up and it's a avenue that I never thought would happen. So I think it's mainly just the mentality change from now to then.
Okay. Yeah, that's huge. I mean, and credit to your dad for pushing you to do that because now that's become your biggest customer, right?
Yeah,
Um, I think we forgot to talk about this, but like you have a book as well, right?
I do. Yes.
Got it.
Yeah.
So what's the book and like, maybe does that was that a side sort of passion project or does that also fuel the business in some way?
Yeah. I actually did forget to talk about this. So, I have a cookbook that's called If a Teen Can Make It, So Can You. And the cookbook is definitely tied with my business. It shares the recipes that I've grown to make and love. It shows the recipes that I actually sell them myself, such as my cookies and brownies. But it also shows recipes, such as savory recipes that I really just enjoy to love to make. And I think the main purpose of the cookbook is to show it empowers teenagers to get involved in the kitchen and get involved in pretty much anything they're passionate about, whether you're passionate about business, whether you're passionate about cooking or any sport. I think the cookbook just tries to tell teenagers that you can do it and just go out on a limb and just go for it, with sharing the recipes and stuff like that. So, yeah, the cookbook definitely did take a process to make and it was hard, but as I published it, I'm really proud of how I did it and how I'm hoping it can change teenagers' views on stuff.
Okay, great. And how do people, can people buy the cookies online or can they learn about your cookies online? And is there a website or Instagram? Like, how do you get the word out?
Yep. So I have a website which is Teens Table and then it's with the number two again.com. So my website has my updates on what my business is and what I've been doing. And then I also do have an Instagram channel called Teens to Table as well. The Instagram just shares a little bit about what's happening and it has a couple posts on recipes and fun stuff like that. So those are the two main. The website does share a little bit about the cookbook as well, and where you can buy it off of Amazon in that scenario. And yeah,
And did you make the website yourself?
I did. Yeah, I used WordPress. I did it a while back, a little bit ago. But it was definitely a challenge to make. I never experienced WordPress. And I really never experienced how to change the colors or anything like that. So that took a really long time to make, but I think it came out pretty good.
Okay. All right. I just want to do a little bit of an inventory here, right? So Ayan's gotten a cottage license, built a website, cold called a bunch of folks. I forget what the like the healthy, ingredient thing that M something acronym you gave me that you have to follow. Like he's been trying to perfect his recipe, like goes to school full time, works on this 20 hours a week. Like, I think for folks that are like, hey, I'm not sure I have the time to be an entrepreneur, like you definitely have the time, so like there's Yeah, really, really remarkable.
Thank
Where do
you.
you want to take the business? Like, if you could wave a magic wand and you're a freshman, so I mean, you got tons of time. Like, I don't know, 3, 5 years from now, like how big, or what's the vision for the business?
So the vision for the business, in 5 to 10 years is to make myself more known, especially in New Jersey and the tri-state region. I want my business to eventually become a name that's known to every household, to every family, just as Mrs. Fields is. I want them to know who I am and my story and my passion for cooking, and I really want them to enjoy the products. So eventually, I don't know how long it'll take, but I see the business going to like building a cookie empire, and so that's the main goal.
Okay, cool. I have no doubt if the Mondelez or PepsiCo corporate development teams are watching, you got to put Ayaan in your pipe, in your list right now. Like you got to watch this entrepreneur. I think that, you're seeing a glimpse of somebody who's going to build a really big, impactful business. So amazing job. Like just, a clinic on how to build a business. Like you are so many steps ahead, Ayaan. It's like incredibly impressive. I like
Thank
these
you.
conversations like give me like so much hope because you're like just amazing. So for folks that want to find out more, you mentioned them, but let's just do it again. Where can they go to learn more, to buy some cookies, to write to you, whatever it might be? Where's the best places?
Yep. So the best place for that would be my website, teens, TEENS, two, the number two, and then table, TABLE.com. You can there reach out to me with my phone number. I have my email on there, and I have the current updates on what's going on with my business.
Okay, awesome. Well, please do reach out, especially if you can be helpful to Ayaan. If you are, at another school and you want to get these yummy cookies and other things in your school, reach out. If you've got a commercial kitchen that Ayaan can use to start fulfilling some of these orders, definitely reach out. But I think for anybody listening to this, they're going to be inspired. So congrats, really, really remarkable job, and I'm glad to see the fellowship grant was helpful, and we're looking forward to tracking your progress as you continue to build your cookie empire.
Yeah, thank you so
All
much.
right, thanks, Ayan.